At the dollar index here, so obviously very bullish. You can see just been straight up since mid-July. It's crossed over this moving average, and then as of last week it did hit this little area here, so, and it did sell off a little bit. I do think it's going to continue upwards a bit and definitely retest this area. I think we just had a bit of a sell-off at the end of the week last week, but figuring out next week's move. So on average it moves about 1.3 points, and last week it moved 1.33, and on average it moves 1.37. So very on par last week for a normal move, and I'd expect the same next week. So if we figure out our range here, 1.3 is about this right here, call it 1.3, drop it down to these lower time frames here. I do think it's going to continue up, so a couple possibilities here. Obviously still very bullish. I mean, way above this 4-hour moving average, just textbook bull structure, higher highs, higher lows. It did have a bit of a pullback towards the end of the week though, last week, and you can see a little bit of structure resistance here. So you can see price came down, it sold off, came down, touched this 3 times, actually made a new low here. We did get some good bear momentum in relativity to the rest of this. You can see these big full bear candles. So what I'm thinking is possible for next week, I do think it's going to retest this 106.60 area for sure, but it might have an issue breaking this zone first. So if we throw a fib on this, you can see it's actually respecting this between the 50% and the 618 zone, you know, perfectly here. So we can actually widen this zone a little bit. This is our full, you know, 50% 618 area that price is respecting. So there is a chance that you know, price is going to sell off a little bit more, and it actually retested it. It actually tested this level already. You can see price respected this area many times, then finally broke, and then with this segment of price came down and retested it. So I do think it's going to keep going up, but I mean, it is having a tough time breaking this little level here. So with that being said, what could happen is this is our weekly movement, so our weekly range. So we'll put this on, we'll mark Friday out here, just move it over here. So that's the end of the day Friday. So this is kind of extend our zones here. So you can see that, you know, if price comes down to this area, this 105.26 area, and then makes its full weekly movement upwards, its full weekly range at about 1.3, puts us right back in, you know, mid zone here. And then obviously would have to break this area here, which price has tested a few times. So there's a couple key areas here, but this is in line with my Euro USD and my gold analysis as well. With this pushing up, it's going to push those down a bit still. And I do think it's going to continue up, but depending on how we open next week, let's say Monday, or I guess it's this week now, today it's Sunday, but once this opens, if it doesn't break this area here, which it's tough to say. I mean, this was Friday for the most part, these last Friday and a bit of Thursday here. So I mean, Friday candles are a little bit, they're not really the same as the rest of the week just because the volume's low. So we'll have to just wait and see if this breaks this zone. If this breaks this zone, then there's a chance that, you know, it keeps going, and, you know, this 1.3 takes us right above this 1.3 range here, takes us right above 107. And then our zones, I mean, there's not really much here. There's a zone up a little bit higher in the 108s here that we'd have to be concerned about, but I do think that if there's enough momentum, we can take out this zone and create some range above it for sure. And then actually this will ultimately become support, and then we'll have to keep in mind our next move, and this will be our support zone. But until then, there are these key zones that price has to break. So it's got to break this zone, and it's got to break this zone. So I do think that we might get a bit of a sell-off here. You know, some weak market movement Monday, Tuesday will cause this to not break, and we'll come down to here. So let's say this comes down midweek. So now we're looking at like Wednesday for price to stabilize down here, and then this is our move straight up. Well, we'll put this back over here. This is our move for the week, and then to continue the rest of the week, let's say Thursday, Friday are really strong. It'll be something like this. obviously take out this zone, and then yeah, target this 106.40 area, and then upwards of 106.60 area for that full weekly range. The monthly range is about 3.6, and last month it did 3.55. So yeah, it's definitely moving in its normal ranges, so that's good. I like when things are consistent. It gives us a good base to work with. But you can see this zone is heavily respected, so odds are we will retest this. You can see it did sell off on the week quite a bit, but I do think at the very least, if price does not come back and touch the zone, I do think it's going to retest all the prices within here and touch this zone for sure, and retest every price in between current price and the price up here. So if not, I mean, I think overall it will hit this zone. There's so much momentum. If you look at this, I think we just had one big sell-off day on Thursday here, and then Friday a little bit indecisive. Tested all these prices down, but again got bought up towards the end of the day. So it's a good sign the bull momentum wants to continue. So I do think it will hit this area. So we'll just have to keep in mind how this plays out, how this opens. I think the more times price hits an area and respects the zone, the more likely it is to fail. So I think as these wicks, especially, you can see this wick was low. This wick was lower than this one. This one was, I believe, a tiny bit lower than this one. So I mean, these highs upon entering the zone are getting a little bit lower. So I do think that it's going to come back down and hit this zone. But obviously, this area is super respected. There's a ton of strength here and stability. So that is my take on DXY, a dollar index. Let me know what you guys think in the comments, and I'll see you in the next one.